him on my phone. Wildfire hard.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the Judicial and Public Safety Committee to order. It is Thursday, November 14th. May I please have roll call?
Gums,
It's here.
Linder,
Linder here.
Roth,
Roth here.
Epi,
Tepe here.
Williams, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Molina.
Molina present.
You have an in-person quorum.
Okay, we have an in-person quorum. I do have a remote attendance request from Mr. Williams due to illness. Any objections?
No.
When he gets on? Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion for the consent for the
Tepe
minutes.
asked for unanimous consent.
For October 10th, 2024.
Tepe asked for unanimous consent.
Any objections to? Okay, minutes are approved. I have no one signed up for public comment. Monthly financial reports are on file. We will move on to KingCom.
Good morning.
Morning.
Our monthly statistics and activities are in the packet. I do just want to highlight, it was quite a busy month. If you look at our calls for service, we were up about 800 calls for service and about 1,350 phone calls. Most of those calls for service where we saw the growth were actually from our fire agencies. So in October, it was a very, very busy fire month. A number of field fires, their activity pretty much doubled. So that's where the increase is coming from. And I don't have much else this morning, so happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you. Any questions for our KingCom director? Okay, thank you for being here. We will move on to emergency management.
Morning.
Morning.
Just a quick note on our stats you have in front of you. I think I mentioned in October, our volunteer hours were trending up. So we are currently 11 months in at 12,500. So we're already over 1,000 hours over what we had last year. And looking at the averages for typical Novembers, we're easily going to hit 13,000. So that'll be a all-time high. We're really happy about that. We had new graduation for in October for 11 new volunteers who are taking their roles and doing a great job. And we are just about to start another wintertime new member academy, this time for communications volunteers. So I have 8 new people signed up, completed their background checks, and they'll be starting in the next couple weeks. We have just started our FIRA process. FIRA stands for Threat and Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment. It's a mouthful, but it's something we do periodically. And this is the every 3-year time where the results of this will inform our next emergency operations plan, which we've started working on and will be due in March of 26. So that's basically going to identify the top 10 hazards or so that we have to plan for. So we'll get underway with that. We held a crisis team tabletop for the crisis team last month, and it was on a active shooter incident in this building. I think it opened some eyes and identified some things that we need to work on. So an after action report will be forthcoming on that. And then finally, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we have the Kane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Committee meeting. This is the first follow-up meeting that we're required to do annually after our natural hazard mitigation plan was approved earlier this year. So this is the follow-up where we meet with all of the municipalities and get them all on board to adopt the plan. And then we're going to have some presentations about how they can apply for hazard mitigation grants and things like that. So I believe that's all I have as far as our monthly report.
Okay, any questions? Ms. Gums?
Just where is that meeting at? Is it here?
It's here right downstairs in the auditorium,
At what time?
9 a.m.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, go ahead and introduce your resolution.
So this is a resolution for a budget adjustment. So prior to my coming here in 2022, we were awarded a grant to hire a consultant to develop the natural hazard mitigation plan. At the time, the staff that was here and currently here believed that the grant was going to be paid, the consultant was going to be paid directly by the state. When we finished the plan and received the invoice and submitted it for payment, the county got the check instead of the consultant. So we've received $48,000 roughly and paid out $45,000 to the consultant. And then the remaining, I think it's about $2,000 or $3,000 is reimbursing for the department, environmental department's time for managing the grant. So this is just an adjustment to add those items to the budget.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
Roth will make the motion.
Ross moves, Mr. Teppi seconds. Any questions? Mr. Leonard?
Yes, Madam Chair. Scott, could you tell me, is this an annual expense we'll have, or is it a one-time expense?
This is a one-time, we have to redo the plan every 5 years. So the next time we'll probably see if we can get another grant when we have to do this again in 2029. And we'll be back probably for some more of this because as it says in the resolution, the grant amount is 63,000, which has been spent. We're waiting for the state to pay out the rest of the money so we can pay the remaining invoices. So if at this point, probably looking at the 2025 budget. So when we get that money and pay it out, we'll have another budget adjustment for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, may I please have roll?
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Ina, yes.
Passes.
Okay, and this passes on to finance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see our sheriff on. So we'll move on to coroner. I don't see the coroner on here. Both of their reports are on file. If you have any questions, please forward them over to the electeds. And then we'll move on to the judiciary and courts.
Good morning, everyone. It's Chief Judge Villa for those who are online. Just a few things to note. With the retirement of Judge Hull effective in August, I believe, when he was officially retired, we've been down a specific judge. We had the election for his spot, his circuit spot, which is held between Judges Parga and Clement. Judge Parga won that race. She's now our new circuit. Judge Clement doesn't lose his spot. He stays in as an associate, but it allows us to now add back that associate that we lost. So we'll be posting that in December and be voting sometime in January for a new associate to join the judiciary ranks. The other thing I want to tell you is that we had a really nice, I received some really nice comments from something that the board did, passing the resolution to have our buildings lit up in green for the Veterans Celebration. And we did that at the courthouse. And then we published it so people wouldn't think that we were putting up the Christmas tree too early before Thanksgiving. And I got some really nice comments about that. So kudos to anybody here who voted for that. And I hope to do that again every year around Veterans Day. I think it was a really good promotional thing for us. And we had our Veterans Court graduation the week before, or the Friday before, I think, Veterans Day, which was wonderful. If you haven't attended these, and I know some of you did, if you haven't attended these before, these specialty court graduations are really a special event. We had a really motivational speaker who took himself from incredible highs in the technology industry to complete devastation because of drugs and alcohol. Even though he was a two-time veteran, he still couldn't keep his life together because of the trauma he suffered as a child and during wars, or in his time in service, I should say. And he is an inspiration to everyone who was there. So it was a really good event. I encourage all of you, if you can, make one of these graduations, please do. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Villa. Any questions? Okay, we will move on to our State's Attorney. State's Attorney Mosser.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I could not be there in attendance. Our monthly reports are on file. I wanted to highlight something that I participated in this week. The Attorney General's Office has created a statewide conviction integrity unit. You may remember in 2021, I petitioned the board for funding for an attorney to do conviction integrity. Unfortunately, we did not have the funds to be able to support that. Having a conviction integrity unit is vitally important for prosecutors' offices because people will come back after convictions, especially those who may be serving lengthy prison sentences, and they will make a request to review a case, usually for actual innocence, which means they may have new evidence that came forward that wasn't presented at the trial at that time. It's the proper thing for any state's attorney's office to have somebody who can review that fairly and independently to make sure that our convictions are solid, that they're what they should be. The whole idea of conviction integrity is integrity. The integrity means that we believe in the convictions and what is happening. This is something our Attorney General has been working on for a number of years. He finally had that. He received some funding, federal funding for it. And as a result of that, if we have cases here in Kane County now that are requested to be reviewed for actual innocence, now we have a great partnership in the Attorney General's office. I went down to Chicago for a press conference for that. It was myself, the newly elected Cook County State's Attorney, the DuPage County State's Attorney, and the Lake County State's Attorney. So I'm very grateful for that partnership, and I just wanted to bring that information to the county board. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for our state's attorney? Mr. Tepe?
Thank you. Good morning. On Tuesday at the county board meeting, two of your staff members, one an attorney and one an investigator, stood up at the podium and gave a brief talk about the effectiveness of the child pornography division and some of the things that have happened associated with that. I think it would be very appropriate for us to either have a presentation here or perhaps to do it for the entire board to really show how some of these additional divisions that have been created have really produced some results. These are the kinds of things that I think we should be doing for Kane County. And I'd like to not only get some more detailed statistics, but I'd also like to get some more detailed explanations, particularly to the entire board, so we can see some of the positive effects that really making a difference here in Kane County. So I want to commend you for doing that, but also want to really, again, promote getting the information out. Thanks.
Sure. We can absolutely do that. We're in the process now of gathering statistics. Obviously, we still have the rest of this month in December before we put our annual report. But from that, what we'll do is we'll highlight certain divisions that have been created, like the child exploitation unit, that is really going to show the difference these last couple of years and how many people we've investigated and arrested versus before when we did not have this unit. So I would be more than happy to do that. I'll aim for probably February, March, if that works.
Thank you.
Earlier the
Any
better.
any other questions? Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say to the state's attorney that I very much, we as a board very much appreciate what the state's attorney's office did in coming in with a budget increase of 2% for 25. It made our job a little bit easier. We still have a lot of hurdles to climb, but to be 2% for an increase to recommend that, I just want to thank the state's attorney and specifically Terry Hunt for all the work they did to get to that price. And I thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I'm lucky to have Terry. He's fantastic.
Okay, any other questions or comments for our state's attorney? Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our public defender.
Good morning. Our reports are on file. I am happy to announce that we started our construction project this week. So we are, this is something that's been in the process for about 3 years now. We are getting 5 new offices and a conference room, and it is anticipated to take about 6 weeks. So hopefully we'll have finished pictures to share in January. So we are in the middle, a little bit of upheaval in our office, but we are making it work because we're very excited to have the new offices. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, any questions for our public defender? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to court services.
Good morning. I have a few things to talk about, and then I have a resolution. So I'll start with some of the exhibits that I uploaded. The main one that I want to talk about is the 2024 Kane County Juvenile Detention Inspection Report. As you know, there were originally 16 detention facilities in the state. One has been closed down. A second one is closed temporarily, pending review and restaffing in Sangamon County. A third is currently under a lawsuit because they weren't adequately providing services to the youth. I'm understanding that now the Department of Justice has also filed a opinion that they're a statement of interest on this case as well. Siding with the ACLU against the facility. So against that background, I want to talk about the fact that Kane County continues to be a leader in the state. This report highlights that our educational program, Our CBT, our cognitive intervention programs, our mental health staff are doing a fantastic job. Our medical and healthcare contracts are exactly where they need to be, and we're meeting. And again, I want to make sure that you guys know we partner with the Regional Office of Education. They provide our teachers, and they again highlight that our teaching program, our educational program is outstanding for the state. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very proud of that. And I don't usually upload the full report for you guys. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that to know how we're doing. And along the idea or the subject of juvenile detention, in fact, we held the AOIC, the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts, selected our detention facility, our county, to highlight as part of this event they just had called Youth Are Worth It. It was a learning event. We had many judges from around the state. We had 2 Supreme Court justices attend as well. And it was a wonderful event. We brought in former residents who talked about their experiences. Because as you know, juveniles, their brains are elastic, right? So that's the perfect time to do an intervention on a kid who's done some really bad things. And in fact, one of the both of the speakers that we had done some pretty bad things when they were juveniles, or to get them in that facility. One is currently in the Department of Juvenile Justice serving for his offense. So I wanted to highlight that we're doing good work, we're getting good publicity. And the chief judge mentioned that last month, but I wanted to let you know that how that went, and that was well received.
I would just like to add, because Lisa has not mentioned this, this is the first time the state of Illinois has ever hosted a collaborative event to discuss detention in the state of Illinois, and they chose our site based on how well our facility and the people who run it handle this very delicate issue. I would then went the following Thursday to the Conference of Chief Judges, and there was a substantial applause from Chief Justice Tice and the rest of the chief judges who were there. So everybody did look very, very well. It made Kane County look like a very good place to kick this off at, and I expect this is going to be a yearly collaborative event that we're going to have.
Thank you, Judge. So against that backdrop, I want to give a little foreshadowing, because obviously, you know, we're all concerned about the county's economic status. I have been in this position for 14 years, and sometimes these budget meetings can get really rather long, especially when there are hard decisions to be made. So my intention is over the next few months to break down the department, because court service is very large. We do juvenile detention and probation and pretrial and diagnostic services. So I'm going to highlight each section each month and talk about those more in depth. The first thing I'm going to talk about, or the first thing I want to talk about, is actually juvenile detention. For everything that we just talked about this morning, there's, effectively speaking, really only 13 facilities left. And the JJC, the Juvenile Detention Facility, their budget's just over $5 million a year. My total budget is about $13 million a year. So you can see they consume a vast amount of that budget. And I want to talk about that because there are many laws that we have to comply with. And I'll give you some foreshadowing. We've asked the state of Illinois, or rather they've asked us, can they give us more staff so that we can hold more kids from around the state? Well, that will mean an increase in our costs. But as you know, the state of Illinois funds those positions, the salaries, and then we distribute the costs, the remaining costs of that employee over all of the partner counties that also contract with us. And so just as a reminder, I submit these stats to you every month on page, 207 of your current packet. It does list, the average daily population by county for the kids who were detained in the facility. So you can see we have many partner counties, but Kane does detain the majority of the kids. So if we had to find other facilities, we would terminate those contracts with those other counties. We would lose that revenue, but then the county would have to pay for our kids to be at other counties. And so just briefly, I'll let you know, we've worked so hard to increase our revenue, to increase the per diem we charge other counties, to maximize the number of employees that are being paid by the state of Illinois, that of that $5 million budget, King County net only pays $400,000 a year for that entire operation. But if I have to hire other counties to house those kids at $175 a day, 365 days a year, that's over $1 million that now we're on the hook to pay. So it would be a net increase, plus the only two facilities in the region that have capacity to hold our kids, because then if we close, then it would be down to 12 facilities in the entire state, would be Peoria, which is 2.5 hours away and almost 200 miles, or Will County, which is 1 hour away, but obviously we would have a lot of competitors. So we'll go into that at far more depth. I want to make sure that I'm foreshadowing what's coming and that being open and explicit about our operations and why we're doing what we're doing so that we're all in the best position possible to make great decisions. And then if there's no questions on that, I'll move on to the resolution.
Does anybody have any questions on that, Mr. Roth?
The state has asked us to take more. Did they give any numbers or estimate of what?
We have told them. So a complicating factor is that there are laws that state we have to have certain ratios per kids. So unfortunately, I can't, just say, oh, sure, give me one more kid. It's a 1-to-8 ratio, 1 staff per 8 kids. So if we're going to take one more kid, we might as well take 8 more kids to maximize the value of that 1 staff.
Right.
And so we right now have closed down 1 unit in order to really keep our costs low. If we're going to open that unit, then we have to staff it 3 shifts a day at 1 staff per 8 kids. And 7 days in a week is awkward because 5 shifts a week is American standard. So we would be looking at minimally 7 staff to open that unit. So we're in talks with the state about that and what that could look like.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ost, I guess one thing I'd like to look at is kind of like you're speaking of it, but the future of the JJC in Illinois, where we see King County's role in that in the next 6 years, and what we can do as a county to support that role, the vision that you see where we're going, and kind of what the cost associated with it, not just personnel, but infrastructure associated with that. I think that's something that would be beneficial to us as a board going forward, just kind of seeing what the future looks like for the detention centers in Illinois.
Sure.
And your expertise on it would be
Sure.
appreciated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mr. Tepe?
Thank you. Lisa, one of the points is that your staff used to have a pretty high turnover rate, and how have you been able to address that, and how would that affect things going forward?
Yeah, so the detention staff and juvenile are mandated to have a bachelor's degree. And so just even a few years ago, they were starting at, about 45,000 a year. And our turnover rate was very high. As a comparable, there are many local departments, police departments that do not require a bachelor's degree. And within a year or two, they start them at 75,000 a year. And so we lost a lot of our community correction staff to local police departments and correctional facilities. We were able to raise the salaries over the last few years so that now our detention officers start around 51,000 a year. That has made a huge difference. A lot of our staff would really rather work with juveniles, but of course, they have families that they need to support. So we still lose a lot of people to surrounding communities, partners, our criminal justice, our community corrections people, but we've lessened the turnover.
Thanks.
Ms. Combs?
Thank you. I just have a quick question on that. The bachelor's requirement, are we still doing that then?
It's a state of Illinois requirement through the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts.
So can we lobby to maybe correct that? Is that something we should have on our radar? I guess is the question.
Maybe our legislative group should take a look at that.
Well, this is not a law. This is a standard.
Right.
It's also a best practice. I will be neutral on this and say that the thinking behind having a degree in order to work with these youth is that they come with very challenging issues, an overwhelming amount of trauma, and they've also committed some pretty heinous acts. Under the law, even under the United States Supreme Court, youth who commit crime are highly likely to be rehabilitated. And so the sentences that they receive, they're going to return to the community. And so a lot of emphasis has been put into rehabilitating them to the best of our ability to make sure that they're fully functioning and rehabilitated to the best of our ability by the time that they are released. And so a lot of the thinking is that that requires a lot of specialized education, and especially knowledge about behavioralism, therapeutic techniques, psychology, et cetera, that we would not be able to guarantee that they have if they're only high school graduates.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Mrs. Ost, go ahead.
Thank you. In front of you, I have a resolution for sex offender treatment services. These services, we use what we call a containment model in Kane County, where if a person is convicted of a sex offense and they're placed on probation, we cooperate fully with the treatment agency that is doing the sex offender treatment, as well as we hire polygraphers to do periodic polygraphy on these people to make sure that they're being truthful, that there's no new victims, there's no engaging in activities which are triggers for their behavior, like watching porn. And so we pay for those services out of probation fees. There's no impact on the general fund, but in mandating that the sex offenders participate in this kind of sex offender, very intensive treatment, we have found to be effective in reducing recidivism. And so I'm looking for your approval to continue with that.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
Roth will make the motion.
Leonard will second.
Okay, Mr. Roth moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Any questions or comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes on to executive.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ost. Okay, we'll move on to our circuit clerk.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Our report is on file. If you have any questions regarding it, I would like to point out a couple of things. One, we've collected 65,000 for eye drop, which is our collections status. We've sent 701 cases to Harrison Harris, which would result in 409,000, over 409,000 if we received it all. But this month we received 65,000. Now, remember, we don't actually get the exact 700. Let's just put an example. When you send 701 out, you might not get any of it for a year or so. So these numbers never match up to what we should be getting in, but we're still collecting pretty good. Case filings are up. We're right on track. What we thought at the beginning of the year, criminal is up 12%, civil 11, and probate 10. We are down again for clerks. We will be down 1 in records also. So we will be down 5 total, but we do have a couple of applications that we will be interviewing. We received a lot of applications in April and then in August, and they kind of trickle out. So applications are kind of not very many coming in right now. So we're going to go back through old applications. But again, I know we raised the minimum salary that starts at the circuit clerk's office, but we're already starting to fall behind with other circuit clerks. So we have to kind of keep an eye on that because we don't want to fall too far behind. It always lessens the quality of applications that we get in. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for our circuit clerk? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam
right.
Chair. Can I
yes,
just just want to make a general comment about forecasting for some of you and the board later. And this is really in support of the clerk's office. If you are not aware, the dashboard that was created under Chief Judge Hull was one of the first in the state. It has now been adopted by a number of different counties. There are 5 that are going to be highlighted by the Supreme Court this week. I'm going to a Chief Judge's conference that was called by the Supreme Court for Friday morning. And all 7 Supreme Court justices are going to appear in person in Chicago. That never happens. Usually just the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court manages the Conference of Chief Judges. I have a feeling we're going to be told that due to some rather aggressive threatened litigation regarding FOIA and some other issues, the Supreme Court is going to use our model and the other models of Winnebago County, Cook County, McHenry County, and others who have followed suit and taken this data collection seriously. And by data collection, I mean that which is required by the Safety Act. And, if you don't know how much that data collection or how much data collection is required, I'm sure the clerk's office would be happy to explain that to you. Whether we like it or not, whether we want to use the phrase unfunded mandate again in this chamber, which we will, the clerk's office is going to need our support to hire the right people and keep them satisfied by paying them a wage that they can feel proud of. We cannot fail on this because we will be forced through a lawsuit. MacArthur Foundation and 2 other groups are already poised to file lawsuits against various circuits, and they have some significant support in the legislature if we don't take this seriously. So I feel after I go to this meeting this week, the next time I come to see you, I'll have something to report upon the Supreme Court's seriousness on this. So in the future, when we do discuss the circuit clerk's needs, please keep this in mind. It's going to be coming.
Thank you.
Judge Villa, Mr. Tepe?
Thank you. To what extent have we been able to automate that to where it's, we've really capturing the data effectively rather than doing things?
We are once again, by the accident of just getting this job recently, I learned that we are once again the star of the state in this area. The clerk's office and the staff that are involved in creating that dashboard. If you haven't seen it, please go take a look at it. We've made modifications to it recently to give the state's attorney's office a better opportunity to explain the data that comes out of their office, whether they seek detention or not, what's a detainable offense and what isn't. It's working very, very well for us. What I'm saying is, I think there's going to be some changes that are necessary soon too, in terms of additional data.
Any way we can patent this so that we can?
I would love to do so. I would love to do so.
I would like to, thank you. Thank you very much, Judge. I like to add, it is, some of it is automated, of course. But we do have, 4, let's see, 5, 6, if you count Monica, who everybody tries to steal from me. Monica Lawrence, my IT person. They're the ones that work on that, and they work on it and they clean it up, and that's their daily job. And we have to send these out quarterly to the state of Illinois. And believe me, if we're, a minute late, we start getting emails. So we're on it, and they are very qualified individuals. They could always use more individuals in that area, because when something else happens, then they have to stop what they're doing to fix whatever else happens, which happens a lot with the case management system. So between my business processors and SMEs, they're called, and the help with the court services, they compiled this information. And yes, it is being used throughout the state. Everyone pretty much has copied it and put it on their website. So it's interesting to go through and look at other counties like DuPage, Kendall, Will, McHenry. They're all using it, Lake, they're all using it now. But it's all totally based on our dashboard. So we're very proud of that. And court services should be also, because they did help with what type of information and going forward, but we really owe it all to Monica and her team.
Yeah, again, one of the things that's impressed me about Kane County in my 4 years being on the board here is the amount of cooperation and the way people work together. And I think you see that with court services, you see that with IT. My only point was, as when you have something new like the Safety Act, which brings, unfunded things that we have to do, it's also changing. So that makes it harder sometimes to automate it, but the more you can get it automated, the better it can be. And the fact that we can share that with the rest of the state, I think is phenomenal.
Right.
But so my kudos for that.
Thank you. They have come in and had meetings with us. As a matter of fact, Winnebago was just visiting on Friday, looking at our case management system and how we collaborate with other offices, and they were very impressed and trying to make their decision on what type of case management they needed. We didn't hold back anything. We let them know the good, you know, the good, bad and the ugly. And the whole point to having operation that works successful, you're never going to find anything perfect. And there's with our case management system, with it being such a monopoly almost throughout the state now, because it's so large. I mean, when I met with them last month, they talked about how they started out with like 700 people and now they're over 7,000 in a short time. So they've just really branched out. But when you get a large business like this, you're going to get large problems, right? Because then it takes longer to get things fixed. And that's why we rely on IT and we rely on my IT to work together to fix the issues. And a lot of times, my ladies, I say ladies, I shouldn't say that because we do have a gentleman in there now, but my staff are the ones that actually brainstorm, you know, the workarounds, the fixes to try and get all the information that's required. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we will move on. Any old business the committee would like to bring up at this time? Any new business? Okay, I'll request a unanimous consent to place reports on file.
So made.
Okay, reports are placed on file. We have no need for executive session. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Roth will make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Roth, second by Mr. Linder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.